And it's 9:01, so I think we can call the meeting to order. I have to be careful. So I have the big screen a little bit higher than the small screen that has the camera on it, so it may look like I'm looking up a lot. I'll try not to. The goal of today's meeting is to have our spring membership meeting in light of the social distancing requirements of COVID-19. And it's kind of a loose meeting, to be truthful. We do have business that we'll take care of pretty much right out of the gate. And then we'll talk about a few of the things, the raffle, and then really just sort of talk it out as far as if anyone's needing any help, if there's any town hall type of situation where people are finding things that they like and or asking how to do something, and then we'll freeform as much as we want, and then we'll call it a wrap. So the first thing on the agenda is welcome everybody. And twice a year, it's not a bad idea to review our mission, vision, and values. So I'm going to dive right in and just read those today. And then I'll turn the meeting over. Well, then we'll do some quick, in a way, the introductions are sort of in place. We'll save that for a little later. Then we'll do I'll let Nikki take care of our membership business. So Montana Sheriffs, our mission. Montana Sheriffs is a partnership of Montana-based nonprofit groups devoted to improving the quality of life in communities throughout Montana. Our vision, we envision a Montana where all citizens acknowledge their responsibility to contribute to their communities and to the well-being of the state and nation for future and present generations. I flipped that those. Everyone really quick. Okay. Value and address arts and culture, sustainable communities, protection of our environment, dignity in human services and animal welfare, tolerance and diversity, social activism, and educational opportunities. Recognize Montana Sheriff's commitment to honor donor choice to achieve the highest standards of accountability in charitable giving, and regard Montana Sheriffs as the most dependable source of support and partnership for statewide and local nonprofits to promote their specific missions. Our values. Montana Sheriffs honors donor choice in giving. We work to achieve the highest standards of financial accounting and reporting. All member groups are accountable for meeting nonprofit standards and requirements. We build relationships and encourage community involvement by connecting member groups with donors, employers, employees, and volunteers. We assist member groups through networking, training, technical assistance, and support. We are a member-directed partnership of groups working together for the common good of Montana Sheriffs, and each member group is honored for its distinctive mission and advocates for its partners. Now, with that in mind, I'm going to unmute all so that we do have the ability to... Okay.
Oh boy.
And just so you guys know, one sec, I'm going to mute all for another second. The Montana Sheriffs Council will be voting on it. We have the ability to temporarily vote people in as council members, as officers via executive committee, which we have done. So we're going to be formalizing some of the actions of executive committee. And that's basically where we're going to go now when I turn this over to Nikki. So I'm going to, for now, just unmute Nikki. There we go. Nikki, you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Before we get into the business, since I'm your president-elect, I wanted to take just a minute to tell you a little bit about myself. Some of you I know very well, and others we're meeting for the first time. So I was really pleased when the executive committee asked if I would take over the membership of Montana Sheriffs for the next 2 years. I'm retired from Exploration Works as the executive director. During my tenure there, XWorks was a Sheriffs member, and I served on the board at that time, and then I retired about 3 years ago. So it's nice to come back and be re-engaged with Shares and to see how the organization has progressed since the last time I took a deep dive into what Shares is all about. So that's just a little bit about me. We have a number of items to take care of this morning. I'm assuming everyone has had an opportunity to read the minutes from the September 13th meeting. And let me ask first if there are any additions or changes to those minutes.
You are unmuted.
That's what happens when I unmute everyone at one time.
It's tough.
You need to like dance whenever that happens.
Bill, we really should all stay muted except for this one at a time.
Does everyone, okay, let's mute you all for a second. And then I'm going to unmute Nikki just so she can talk. Does everyone have the ability to use the chat box? If you go to the bottom, middle, almost dead center is a chat. And in the chat, we can actually do our voting there. So if you just want to even type just a 1, if you know where the chat's at, and we can see a whole bunch of 1s skim by, we'll know that we're in good shape for that. There we go, starting to see some of them. Now there, we're whipping through all of them. Okay.
All right.
We'll keep you all muted. We'll let Nikki do that. When we call for a vote, please type a yes or a no for your vote.
All right, I move for the acceptance of the September 13th, 2019 membership meeting minutes. All those in favor, please respond on the chat.
Okay, we've got a pile of yeses going through. Yeses, yes, yes, yes. I'm not seeing any no's. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, I think that's an approval of minutes.
All right, thank you, everyone. Feels a little bit strange for me to be leading election of members when my name keeps appearing on the list there, but can I have a motion to approve the election of members at large for 2-year terms from 5/20 to 5/22 for myself, Nikki Anderson, and Darby Hess? If you would make that motion, do you want to just someone raise their hand?
I've got Kelly Willett doing a so moved, and I've got Cassidy Cook. We'll count that as a second.
All right, thank you very much. I'll move the election of the at-large members. Please respond by chat.
Okay, there's our yeses. Yes, 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 yes. I'm just watching for anyone saying no, which I'm not seeing. Currently all yeses. So I would say that one passes.
Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to the election of council members for 2-year terms from May 20 to May 22. Individuals that we would be electing are Bill Matthews, Darby Hess, Kelsey Dalton, Bernie Franks Ongoy, Carissa Beckworth, myself, Nikki Anderson, and Michelle Rogers. May I have motion to accept the slate?
I have Jesse with the motion, and I have Casey with the second. That's Casey C-E-C-H.
All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of electing these individuals to the council for 2-year membership terms or terms, please respond by chat.
And I'm seeing all yeses so far and looking good. Okay, I would say that motion has has carried.
All right, and finally, we have the election of officers to fill out the remaining 2-year term that will expire in January of 2022. Myself, Nikki Anderson, Kelly Willett as Vice President, Darby Hess as Secretary, and Bernie Frank Ongoy as Treasurer. I have a motion to accept that slate.
Not seeing it. Someone want to make that motion?
Right.
There we go. Jesse again, and then Betsy will make you the second.
All right, thank you very much. I'll call the question. All those in favor of selecting, approving the slate, please respond on chat.
Okay, seeing a slew of yeses again. Great. Okay, I think that's safe to say that the motion carries.
All right, thank you. Bill, I'm not sure what you had in mind under board service. Is that?
That's just something I would like to speak to for a minute or two. Basically, I have to look at my other computer. One sec. We will have, of the current, we have a board of up to 12 people, and our board has to be at least half member representatives and can be up to half at-large members. And we're in good shape as far as the number of member representatives. We will have, we currently have 11 of the 12 seats filled. If you are interested in serving on the board currently, we can probably get you voted in at probably the July board meeting. If you are interested in serving starting May of 2021, which would be next year, May, feel free to contact me anytime in the next year or so to share that interest, because we will be turning over roughly half the board. And I would rather have a year jump on it than try to do that in the last, 2 or 3 months before they're due. So if you are interested in board service, it's worth points for all the board meetings that you attend. I use the word board when really I should be using council, which is our term for the board. So either if you want to be that 12th person this year, or if you want to be on the board in a year, please contact me. That's really all I have to say about it. But I do encourage everyone to serve on the board of any organization, and in particular, if you are a member representative, then it's a great idea to serve on the board for Montana Shares. And we're covered for 2 years for the executive committee, our president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. But if you're interested in being groomed for those positions, those are also ones that I would like you to consider. So that's really all I had to say about that. The next one is just something that's on our minds right now, because we are kicking off the raffle right now. If you do not provide a raffle prize, just so you know, we will buy a raffle prize for you. And but there's more to it. And so I want to thank Betsy in particular with the Jeanette Rankin Peace Center, who actually had a prize provided before we even asked for it. So as you move into next year, early January, February, and you want to be thinking about those prizes, feel free to come up with a prize that's worth $100 minimum, and turn that into us so that we are not spending staff time going out and buying these prizes and sending repeated emails if we have to do that. So I guess really all I wanted to say about that is if you are interested in well, not if you are interested in, but if you are going to come up with a raffle prize, come up with it as soon as possible. And I also want to do a shout out for sort of the spectacular job that Montana Child Care Resource and Referral Network does, where several of their organizations around the state all come up with a prize. And I believe that amounted to, I should probably have Christy unmuted here because she's my second brain. Or Kimber, you can probably just type it in, but really it came into about 6 or 7 prizes that came in. And so for each prize, each individual prize worth $100 or more, you also get an extra point for turning in extra prizes. So those are a couple of the ways that you can help us out on the raffle by either just turning in the prize before we even ask for it, or turning in lots of them and getting extra points and strengthening the raffle that way. And that's just kind of a housekeeping note. The next one, and I need to just take a second and look and see if there's does anyone know if there's a raise hand type of thing? If you want to speak. I know other ones have that.
So if you go,
Sorry.
if you go to reactions,
Yes?
oh, I guess that's just a clap or a thumbs up.
No,
I
okay.
thought there was a raised hand.
So let's, as we move into this next part of the meeting, just mute and unmute yourself as you would like. And
Bill, there is a raise hand under, if you just go to where it says more, there is a raise hand option.
it may be, oh, I see it, okay. Use one of the 2 ways, either unmute yourself or raise your hand, and we'll try to get to everyone. I wanted to, we've had this town hall meeting in most of our meetings lately where the speech I give is this: you are part of a group that we currently have 46 member groups this year. We have 3 new member groups. I should have been better prepared, but we have Montana Free Press, and we have Spay Montana as a new group, and we also have Windhorse Equine Education, which is a new group down out of Bozeman. So you have this brain trust of 46 other groups that can help you out on things like how do you raise your hand or something like that. One thing that I've found very interesting, and I'll just share one of the things, you can share either requests for help or things that you've done in this time of social distancing that it might be useful for the group. One of them is the backgrounds, as you can see with my Montana Shares logo in the background. I have learned with Zoom that if you go to the little pop-up beside the word stop video, there's a thing called choose virtual backgrounds. And what I've been doing with that is when I'm recording, I want to record videos in particular to put on Facebook. And I don't want people particularly look at my possibly junky desk. I'll probably say it's junky today. The background isn't that spectacular. And so I've been, on fun meetings, I put some bamboo picture up there just to be somewhere more tropical than Montana. But on these sort of business options, I put up the background for whatever I'm talking about. So I was doing one recently where I was doing the Greater Helena Gives. And so I put this background up there. And it's a great opportunity to have people less distracted from your background and more focused on your message. There's a couple of things. One of them is mirror my video. You may want to flip the thing or uncheck the mirror my video, which I believe it will make things look backwards depending on which one you've chosen. I'm going to be recording another video that will go on Facebook that's like, what does your stimulus check mean to you? A lot of people, it means a lot because they actually need and want that stimulus check. There's going to be a lot of other people that really are in fine financial condition and they don't need that check. And so maybe they want to be donating that check to nonprofits. And so up here in the areas where, how can I do this? Can I point at that? There we go. where I've got Greater Helena Gives, I'll be probably putting something up there that just says, what does your stimulus check mean to you? And if there's any associated logos to the CARES Act and the stimulus checks, I'll have that logo up there and try to address that. So that's just something that I think I'm going to go back to my simple share screen. I'm going to close that setting. That's something I've learned. Another thing that I've learned is if you want sort of that focused ability to have that background up, but you don't want to go on to a Zoom meeting with anyone, you can just start a Zoom meeting with yourself as the only participant. And then in my case, I record one of my screens with another program called ScreenFlow, and I can just create these types of videos that are very focused. So that's one of the things that I have learned recently is it's a fun way to put an interesting background on a focused message. So does anyone on the call have any questions that they want to ask or anything that they've shared that relates to this totally different way of viewing the world? I'd just say unmute yourself if you want to ask or share. Campbell, you should probably share what you've been doing recently with all of your Zoom stuff. Campbell's still on the call.
Well, I'm currently Queen City Ballet's for the last 3 weeks. We've been doing Zoom, all of our remote learning on Zoom, and we offer right now 40 classes a week. And we've had our 4 faculty members, plus I've had 2 guest artists, two from New York teaching on the Zoom platform. So we've learned quite a bit about how to spotlight other speakers. So the first few times when I was teaching class, it would be because we send all of our students playbacks of the classes so that they can repeat the classes, or if they miss the class, they can do the class again. So for younger students, it was really important for them just to watch the teacher because they're following the teacher. But for older students, it was nice for them to be able to switch and see themselves and critique themselves. So for other meetings, to be able to maybe switch around and see other people that are speaking, maybe you don't always want this gallery view. I don't know if these are the questions you're asking, Bill, but yeah, I guess I've learned a lot about Zoom. I wouldn't say I'm the Zoom expert right now, but learning how to take photos of meetings, learning how to try to get better video quality by videoing the Zoom meeting from your own computer, as well as getting the Zoom playback to try to get a higher quality, higher resolution. Bill, my Valley mistress, is younger and much more savvy at this kind of thing. So yeah, we've done that, and I don't know if that is that the question you're asking, or?
Yeah, I mean, it was just we just did an interview yesterday on HCTV where we're actually showing examples of this because she'd sent in some video, and I thought it was a really great use of Zoom. And I think the other interesting aspect of it is the younger generation, anywhere from, I don't know, you've got some youngsters probably in the 5 or 6 range. Is that correct?
3.
3, okay. Kind of ranging from the 3-year-olds all the way up to the late teens. This is second nature to them. They can record themselves on their phone and send in videos and have a higher quality. They can participate in the Zoom meetings either on their phones or on computer, laptops, or whatnot. And it's just really interesting to me how easy it is for them to dive right into this technology, which some of us are a little more challenged with. I do have a question. I'm seeing a little bit of chat. Is my background, is the Montana Sheriff's logo reversed right now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it shows correct for me. Okay. I learned something new right now. Let me ask you this question. Now, even though it's going to look backwards to me, is that reading correctly?
No.
No? Still backwards?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's no fun at all. Okay. I don't
There,
know.
there is that mirror feature, and I don't know how to use it either.
Okay. Well, it'll look right to me even if it's backwards to you guys. It's when I'm doing my things for Facebook, it works really good. Okay. So does anyone else have any lessons learned or requests for information that they want to share? Dive right in if you have.
Hey everybody, it's Jessie over at Missoula at the museum. I've been very blessed that my intern is apparently a Zoom genius. She is a TA and has been doing all of her school hours and stuff on Zoom. So she's been teaching me a lot. And one of the things we're just doing with our team is you can self-record on Zoom and record videos and then splice those together to make messaging for your members and your supporters out there. So we are all, whether it's in our houses or we downloaded the app and went outside to the fort, we're all recording some thank you messages and just saying thank you to people who are helping us out right now and going to use that for social media. And that was I was thinking it was going to be convoluted, but it's literally just record, stop, and when you leave the meeting, it pops up an MP3 file that you can then merge together. And that was just something I thought was really neat with Zoom and a way to kind of be creative with your thank you messaging or really any other messaging you want to get out, especially kind of combining all of your teammates who are in different areas right now, maybe. So that was pretty fun. We're working on it now.
Campbell had a great example of that where the various dancers went through a whole piece, or I don't have the correct terminology, but went through a dance. And as they moved from each person's Zoom to another Zoom, each one was picking up where the previous one had left off. And it's one of those really neat effects to, well, first of all, just to see all the different backgrounds, but then secondly, to just see a great use of technology. So that was, I think you should actually post that on your Facebook page, Campbell, if you haven't already.
Yeah, we are. Well, and it might play on your thing, but I think also, I've heard really good feedback from, I think Zoom is great. I think we're going to see more, different kind of platforms and options coming out. I think this was what was out there to use, but I've heard really, and I don't know, some of you might have used this, but I've heard really good things about Microsoft Teams. Has anybody used that?
We
I
use
don't know that
Microsoft Teams as an internal with our staff meetings because it is a lot more safe than Zoom. Zoom has some security.
Yeah.
So
and that's
we use Teams for that.
Too. And that's an issue for privacy with kids and things like that. But I don't think it's good for me for a teaching platform. But I do think is it maybe clearer, like the resolution or something, or is that just a?
Actually, I mean, I've been doing both. We've been doing Microsoft Teams for our staff meetings and our board meetings, and then Zoom for other more informal stuff. I live rurally, so what I'm seeing is no real difference in the clarity, but that could just be my connection too. But between Zoom and the Teams, I would say if there was a difference, Zoom was a little better. Teams, there's usually a little bit more stop to it, and you can still hear people talking, but they've frozen. I haven't had that issue with Zoom, so I think there's a little bit better with Zoom platform. I also, in general, the user friendliness of Zoom, I'm liking more than Teams. I think Teams has a little ways to go. And I also noticed the difference with Zoom. If you just went off your web, if you didn't download it and you went off your web, it was basically the same. With Teams, you were limited until you downloaded the app. So the first few meetings, I could only see one person and then I had to download the app to get the Brady Bunch style view. So yeah, I'm leaning more towards Zoom after using both platforms for sure.
Another option with Zoom is you can, and I don't know if anybody's done this, you can share your screen. So I've tried to do some, say, teaching that way. So maybe we would watch a ballet on YouTube together. So I would share my screen, pull up YouTube, say, watch this excerpt from a ballet, and the whole class could do that. The problem is we can't figure out how to hear the sound. So that's a user error. But it is would be kind of a neat teaching skill to be able to, I don't know, maybe even bring up a PowerPoint show. So I was able to show them something on Facebook that I liked. When I created that choreography, I said, this is something I like. They couldn't hear the sound, but we were able to share my screen. And I don't know that you can do that with Microsoft Teams, but that is kind of a nice teaching tool too.
I don't know. I did a screen share the other day with Zoom, sharing a video that we were trying to replicate. And we were able to share the sound. So there's probably some toggle back in settings because she could hear the sound just like I could.
Yeah.
So probably just a little toggle button.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does anyone else have anything to share?
Were you saying that the Zoom, I'm looking at a gallery view of the Zoom right now.
Mhm.
Were you saying that there wasn't one? It's up in the, there was a little icon that says gallery view up in the right-hand corner of my screen for Zoom. So, I'm I'm looking kind of at everyone that's on the meeting right now.
Yeah, if you're the host of the meeting, so like Bill's the host of the meeting, so Bill could go over there on your dots and he could push on your dots and he could either make you a co-host or he could spotlight you. So Bill, do you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So there you are. Okay, so
Spotlighted. Hi, Christy.
okay, so then you can go back to gallery view, and then there's a lot. And so what I do is oh God, don't spotlight me.
Are you back up to a gallery?
Okay. So what I do is I spotlight someone, but then they're still in spotlight, but then I go back to gallery view so I can give vast corrections to everybody. I can see everybody, but the kids are watching one person. So that's kind of nice.
We're using Zoom.
So are you spotlighting me and then you can see gallery view right now?
I'm currently looking at gallery view.
Okay. And so then he could make you a co-host from there. And if you're a co-host, then you both could talk at the same time without being unmuted. So that's kind of nice too if I have two teachers in the class. Because I want my kids all muted because I don't want the feedback of my music playing with any rumbling in their house, because then when they get that playback, they can hear that. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense.
So I have a question that I'm going to toss out. So let's use the chat to respond to this again. If you have employees, how many of you submitted for SBA PPP funds, and how many, and did you receive them? So I guess if you submit, I'll just ask the first question. How many of you submitted a SBA PPP loan? Or you can be like Kim and just say submitted and received. And we're getting several people. Yes. Yes, and yes. Let me ask a slightly different question. Is there anyone that is interested in more information on the process from those of us that did get them, or are wondering what the heck we're even talking about? Type into the chat if you want more information. Looks like a lot of us did receive them. Anyone have any? Okay, David, you said yes, interested in more info. I'm just going to give you a quick overview on it because I think it's really important right now. The part of the CARES Act was that the SBA is giving away loans. They're giving away, well, I'll use that term, giving away loans that amount to 2.5 times what your payroll for your organization is. And then the goal of that is after, as long as you keep your staff at full strength, basically, or the same level of staffing, I believe the benchmark month is February. As long as you've kept the staffing the same as it was at February, sometime in July, you can request for a forgiveness of your loan. So you're effectively going to turn what is a loan into a grant. And this stuff happens super quick after SBA or after the CARES Act was passed. It will be something you will submit to your local bank, and I would assume preferably to the bank that you bank with. And so the first round of money that was allocated was depleted within probably the first 2 weeks. And now I don't believe Congress has passed this, but they're working on passing a second round of funding for the PPP, which really is Payroll Protection Program or something. To
Bill,
that. Yeah.
Congress did just pass that last night,
Okay.
and they passed a second bill. The large corporations that got that money have to give it back. So there's going to be more money coming back in addition to that second round.
Okay.
So, but anybody that hasn't applied, you need to do it right now so you get in on early days of that second set of funding.
Right. What I did, just because the local banker, I called and he said, we know nothing about this. And this is the day before the first round passed. And working with other people and other banks, I kind of got a feel for what they wanted. And I just sent an email with the application, with payroll reports and various things, and just said, here's my application. And didn't wait for them to officially invite us to apply. And they did say, we don't quite agree with your terms, and we think it should be a little bit less. I created a spreadsheet that justified what I was sending in because we had an issue with biweekly payrolls as opposed to bi-monthly payrolls, and showed my reasoning. And then they did accept it and said, yes, we accept your numbers and your loan has been approved. And then they'll send out paperwork for you to sign. Originally, they were doing hand signatures. Now they've, at least with the bank I'm using, they've switched over to DocuSign, so it can all be done online. My feeling about this is, as long as you're going to keep your people employed through the end of June, we as a country will be paying for this whole CARES Act for the next few decades. Well, okay, probably for the next century, I don't know. We might as well benefit from it since we're going to be paying for it afterwards. And so if you have any questions relating to this, number one, I would say contact your bank and ask for whoever does their SBA loans, and then see what they have to say. But I would, as Nikki said, I would make sure that you apply as soon as possible to take advantage of the second round of funding. And just for instance, shares, I believe we received a $22,000 loan to cover the next 2.5 months of expenses. The other aspect of it that's worth mentioning is you can only apply for this loan based on what your payroll is. You take your payroll, your average payroll for a month, and you multiply it by 2.5. You can then, that's what the amount you'll receive, but the funds can be used for payroll, rent, mortgage, utilities. And as long as, and you don't hold me responsible for this, but my understanding is as long as you spend 75% on of your loan on payroll, and as long as you keep your staff where it was in February, that are the two main criteria for getting it forgiven. So David, if you have more questions after you've talked to your banker or whatever, feel free to send me an email, and we can set up a phone call and we can talk about it. But It looks like most everyone else has applied. If you haven't applied, I would encourage you to do so, because I think it's extremely valuable to our funding, where I know that there will be shortfalls in various fundraisers. As most of us know, we've postponed or canceled or gone online with a lot of our fundraising activity. And so this is a way to offset some of those shortages for fundraising. That was just something that hit
Very
from
good,
mind.
Bill. Thank you.
You bet.
Let me ask you a question. Did anybody else, because I filled mine out and it seemed like a positive thing, and then the bank called and said, we have our own, I dealt with Valley Bank and they're really super nice, but then they said, oh, we have our own thing we need to file just through the bank. And it was kind of like, seemed like just a formality. And then I did get the paperwork, and it does seem like it's really vague as to, I don't know if anybody else has read the paperwork, but it's really vague as to the payback. It does look like you do pay it back. You have 2 years to pay it back, possibly. Is anybody else seeing this in the paperwork? This 2022, you do pay it back. It's kind of unclear. Is that interest free? Is that?
My understanding of it, Campbell, and everyone else, is that I assume starting sometime in July, they'll hopefully have the rules established for forgiveness, and you'll just submit documentation to the bank, and they will verify it and forgive the loan and essentially turn it into a grant. Yes, I saw the same vagueness in the document. It'll say, it has terminology like the CARES Act has emerging and developing criteria for forgiveness. And consequently, we don't know for sure, but it's pretty well established by the CARES Act and all the information that it's going to be forgiven. So I believe, and I guess worst case scenario is if for some reason this is not going to be forgiven, I would probably just, your first payment, if you were not going to get it forgiven, I believe is November of 2020. So November of this year would be when your first payment was due. If we were not going to get it forgiven sometime in July or August, I'll probably just turn the money back in to them, but I don't see any reason not to have it forgiven. Does anyone else?
That was one of my concerns.
Yeah, I think you just have the contingency. You do have 6 months essentially before your first payment would be due. And if you just find that it's falling apart, I would be turning it back in. But I don't believe that's going to happen. I believe they're going to be forgiving trillions of dollars of loans and turning them into grants. And Campbell, we use Valley Bank as well. So I've seen and read the exact documents that you've seen, and I've seen the repayment schedule, but I believe that's all contingency information to having it forgiven. But I did see the vague wording about emerging and developing criteria or something to that effect. So I know what you're talking about, but I signed it anyway. Does anyone else have any other questions relating to PPP or anything in general?
I'm interested about the First Interstate Bank was very helpful. They happen to be who I am banking with, and I can't say they were as helpful. They actually said they're not one of the participating banks in this process, which that was kind of my first dabbling into looking into this.
Well, Casey, do you want to pop on, and since you've said First Interstate was very helpful for Big Brothers Big Sisters?
Yeah, Bill, we used Jana Garza here in Helena, who is our banker that we've used for many years through First Interstate, and I emailed her. She sent me the paperwork. We went back a couple of times back and forth as they had to change the application, but the process altogether with our accountant and our finance person on the board didn't take us very long, and Jana was very helpful for us.
And I've heard of other people using First Interstate. You're in Bozeman, so I think just really drilling down and asking who's handling the SBA loans. Don't even worry about saying PPP, just say who's your SBA person and getting in touch with them and asking for their email, and then just sending the application into that email with your best guess on stuff. And they'll ask you for any other supporting documentation.
Is there a general application, or is this application received from the banking institution?
There is a general application. If you just do a Google search for SBA, you can probably just say PPP loan or payroll protection and work through the SBA site. You'll eventually get to a PDF that is the official application, even though you'll send it to the bank, to your local bank.
Roger that.
And Bill, for ours, Jana sent us everything that we needed. She had an Excel spreadsheet we needed to fill out,
Okay.
along with the application that First Interstate was using. So we didn't have to go through anybody else or look anywhere else. She was very helpful in what she sent us.
Okay. I think once you get a name and an email, you could make that type of request. It's like, please send me everything for the PPP loan and see what
You
you get.
betcha.
If you just don't get it, then be pushy and guess what you need and send it in.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
I know for a while Wells Fargo was supposedly not participating in it, but then I saw that Wells Fargo did officially say they would be participating in it.
I'm on the board of another nonprofit here in Helena. We bank with First Interstate, and we zoomed in, as Bill said, on the SBA officer at the bank, and the whole process from the time we put in the application until we got the money took about 1 week. And
Wow.
it was really fast and flawless in terms of getting the money once you get your, as Bill said, once you get your documentation in order.
Mhm.
But landing with the right person at the bank is the first key step.
Sure.
We'll have to have a thing at the end of the meeting. Anyone who has dogs in the room will have to do a dog Zoom with us. Mine's telling me she seems to want some attention. Okay, I don't want to hammer it to death, but if anyone else has any questions, I do, like I say, we're here to share brain power. So any other things that relate to the SBA PPP program? Okay. I had a question I just wanted to toss out. One of our new members is Montana Free Press, and Kristen is on the call. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do, and do you see any benefit for the member group of Montana Shares for content for your organization? That's just an open-ended question.
Hi, Bill. Thank you for the opportunity. Can you hear me, hopefully?
Yes. Okay.
Here, let me turn my video on too. Sorry. Hi, yes, my name's Kristen Tessman, and I'm the Development and Operations Director at the Montana Free Press. We are a digital-first news publisher for the state of Montana. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, obviously, since we're here. And we have historically covered politics and policy, but have an expanded beat. Really, any important issue to Montanans is now part of our editorial content. We have 2 new reporters coming on in addition to the existing team. And one of them is a Report for America reporter who will be covering Native American issues out of Billings. And then an audio broadcaster. Her name is Mara Silvers, and she's coming to us from Slate and WNYC. So we're pretty excited about those 2 new reporters joining our team. In terms of opportunities, you know, we've been thinking a lot about advertising through our website. We have about 4,500 newsletter subscribers, and we have about 15,000 people who visit our website every month on average. And so we hadn't really kind of hammered out an advertising plan, a digital advertising plan yet, but I think it's a really great idea to maybe think about how we could incorporate our partners in Montana Shares in a, you know, either a discounted way or some way thinking about how we can get names out there to our statewide audience. But that's a great question, and one that I will take to the rest of our team to think about, Bill. Any suggestions or ideas?
I had no ideas. I was just curious kind of what you did answer the question as far as politics and whatnot. I was just kind of curious what your content focus was.
Well, we've ramped up our coronavirus coverage. So we have a daily newsletter that goes out that is all relevant information about COVID-19 in the state of Montana, in addition to our weekly newsletter that covers our original reporting from multiple topic areas. But like I said, historically, the beat has been, state house, legislature, and policy, but that has expanded now with the additional reporters. We also have a really awesome data reporter named Eric Dietrich, who runs a series called the Long Streets Project, and that's on the economic present and future of Montana. So that's an existing beat that we cover. But like I said, we'll be expanding our coverage to additional topics beyond coronavirus, in the coming months. But we do offer a really great daily newsletter on coronavirus coverage if people are interested. And they can sign up for that at montanafreepress.org.
Super. It sort of dawns on me as I'm looking at the participant list, and for Darcy's, for Darcy, our secretary, for her benefit, just because we do have some names that are just first names and whatnot, if you would send a chat, and especially if you and have your name and your group so that she can have a really great roll call. Just use the chat and type your name and your organization in so that we'll be very clear. There's the dog wanting some attention. Let's go ahead and put a couple more people. Who is 431-4850? Who's the name associated with that? Are you there at all? How about who is 419-265-0242? Maybe they'll say mysteries. Okay. And I'll just let you silently take care of all those, Darby. So back out to town hall. Is there anyone that has any questions, anything they wish to share, any requests of brain power or any sharing of brain power? Sounds like our brains are in pretty good shape.
Is this general questions or lone questions?
No, general questions are acceptable too.
I'd love to have a discussion about how each different group is utilizing our new virtual world to do fundraising. Because, we had to cancel all of our spring fundraising events, and we're looking at canceling into fall, which as the development director now I have to raise $50,000 to $70,000 online without events. And I'd love, what?
You get to start on how you do that, right?
Right. So I'd love to just have an open discussion about ideas and what people are doing. Yeah, because it's a little scary right now.
Jesse, could we start with what you're doing?
Sure. Well, here in Missoula, the Missoula Gives is starting literally in 6 days. And so I've been doing a lot of back end work getting ready for that. Thankfully, Missoula Gives is in its 7th year. So there's a premise for it. And it is technically an online giving day. So I'm hopeful that that will go well. But in general, we also had a lot of external events surrounding Missoula Gives where we were out for First Friday. We did a lot of stuff, and that was really super helpful. We had a Plonk kickoff, and a lot of people came there specifically to give to their groups. And so we'll see how this completely virtual event goes. I've been with the museum. We've been closed since March 14th and working remotely. So we have really ramped up our social media and doing education and events. I've been doing like daily jigsaw puzzles with historic photos that are apparently super popular. Several museums have stolen the idea across the nation, so it's been kind of neat to see how addictive those are. My mom is now telling me that she spends 3 hours a day doing puzzles. So little things like that we've been doing to just up engagement and also up what we can do for our community when everyone's in lockdown. And we've been doing internal scavenger hunts, like a genealogy scavenger hunt where it's like call your grandparents, call your uncle, ask these questions, create your own history story. And so just doing a lot of engagement activities so that people knew we were here for them. And then I started about 2 weeks ago kind of adding a little like asks into them. So just here's an update on what we do. 7,000 kids came through our education programs last year. Here's how you can help continue those. So I sort of engaged, gave activities, and now I'm in the kind of solicitation part. So we'll see how that works. We're also trying to do live discussions. So starting last week on Mondays, we have Museum Mondays with the staff. So it's a Facebook Live event where people can come in and say hello and chat with us, and we give an update and just kind of be real people and talk. My Facebook Live managed to crash halfway through, but came back. That was fun. And then on Thursdays, we have live discussions with the director, which has been, I think, popular so far as last views. So just doing a lot of that, mostly focusing right now on Missoula Gives, and I'll be able to update you next week to let you know how that actually works with all digital fundraising. But that's kind of why I wanted to get this discussion going, is we're trying a lot of things. I've listened to so many webinars pouring out of my head. So everything I'm hearing is just try new things. And if they don't work, they don't work. But everyone is trying new things right now, so it's not a big deal. Just throw mud at the wall and see what sticks. And that's basically what we've been doing. And some of it's worked really well, and some of it, don't know. So yeah, that's kind of what we're doing, and we will see.
Jesse, are there some of those webinars you might recommend to us?
Yeah, let's see. I really, of course, we're a cultural institution, we're a museum, which is also, you kind of want to walk a tightrope there, because while we're not on the front lines right now, and we're not maybe, you know, we're not a food resource, we're not housing people, we're not in healthcare. So I don't want to take away from any of the importance of supporting those organizations right now. So there's also that kind of verbiage, which, so I've been listening to a lot of webinars from Q Museum, and it's called Qseum, and they've had some really great brainstorming discussions. They're cultural institutions from around the world, and they do Zoom happy hours where everyone is just kind of a brainstorm, and then they also do specific webinars, which have been great. Actually, let me get to my webinar list here, because I can't remember where all of them. I know FireSpring, that's another good one that has some really great free stuff.
Can you spell that?
Yeah, it's literally like fire and spring put together.
Be prepared for always hearing a sales pitch is all. You'll notice it take the more you take them, it's always the same. Yeah.
No, one of them actually called me the other day and left a message, and I was like, no. There is this one that I really thought was interesting. It is with, let me double check here, where is it? Where's the name? So yeah, Qseum. It's CUSEUM, and they have a weekly membership Mondays. Like this one was communicating with your members during the coronavirus. They've got every Monday they have a recording, so you don't even have to like go live to see them. Those have been really pretty interesting about, in general, how to communicate with the supporters. I use Bloomerang as a database, and I love all of the webinars that they offer. I don't think you even need to maybe use them to get their webinars, but Stephen Shattuck has everything you want to know about database, talking to your donors, engagement, that kind of stuff. And I really appreciate those. Since we are doing Missoula Gives, our platform is GiveGab, and GiveGab has been offering a plethora of really, really fine-tuned webinars about specifically fundraising online during this crisis. Again, I'm not sure you actually need to be doing the Giving Day or anything like that, but if you Google GiveGab and check out some of their webinars, they've got a lot of pre-recorded, and those have been, I think, the best for me as a development person trying to figure out how to fundraise online. I've appreciated those the most.
That's an incredible list. Thank you for sharing all of that.
I'm doing a lot of webinars.
We all are. I think one thing right now is make sure you're not stepping on your own fundraising. For us, we've got Greater Helena Gives as part of our next one. And then we have the raffle for Montana Shares coming up, which we'll talk about in a sec. And so I'm not even talking about raffle until we get past Greater Helena Gives. And that same thing Jess is talking about as far as Missoula Gives or Give Big Gallatin Valley or whatever your local one is. So I think it's important not to overwhelm people with multiple asks, because now they're forced to make a choice. Whereas if you just give them one fundraiser at a time, then the only choice is to give or not to give.
I totally agree, because I'm also getting a lot of people asking, am I doing Giving Tuesday? Which is, they bumped it to May 5th. And I'm like, no, it's just one.
Anyone else doing online fundraising that's worth telling us about?
So with Montana Audubon, we did have to cancel our bird festival in June. Something we did was we had our registration launched in early March. So we had several people that had already registered for the event. So we did direct asks with every single one of our attendees and asked them to convert their registration into a donation to Montana Audubon. So that is actually, will be more in the black, I think, than if we had the event, because it's not bigger. So that's actually been surprisingly lucrative. And then we also, we rely on our board to be huge supporters. And our development committee had called we have 16 board members, and they raised another $13,000 just in the last week doing direct asks with our board. But I agree with you that you have to be careful not to step on your own fundraising. And so we also had several auction items laid out for this bird festival in June that now we're thinking they wanted to do a online auction. And we just kind of, we just immediately said, I don't think this is the right time. Let's hold on to those maybe in the fall. Because we do have other fundraising things coming up. We have a birdathon coming up. And again, it's like we have a pretty small support base, and so we don't want to exhaust them, as I'm sure they're being exhausted by everybody else. And so those are just a few of the things that we've done recently.
I like that it's more profitable than doing the event. You cut all the expenses of the event out and still get the payment.
So we have through the Montana Housing Partnership, we do an annual conference every year, and we had it all laid out for June. People did register. We had a lot of sponsors. We, of course, have had to cancel that event this year. However, we are moving it to a one-day online program. And we were really surprised because a lot of our sponsors continued at the rate that they had for the in-person, which was really fantastic. And basically what we said is, you know, if you continue with it and we have an overabundance of funds, they will go to support organizations across Montana with all this COVID mess and things like that. And so it was really heartwarming that they continue, most of them continued at their rate. And I think it's going to be fun to come together for a one-day event, kind of different, but that's kind of what we've been up to, is trying to figure all of that out.
So could you talk a little bit about the platforms you're using for your event and kind of what the program is? Because I do hear people doing online events, but I'd love to, you know, get into the nitty-gritty a little bit about what that is.
Sure. So I did a lot of research on different platforms, and you can go really crazy out there. There's like services where you can literally create a building virtually, and people can go to all these different rooms just as if they were at a conference, including silent auction rooms and things like that. But that was well above our heads. So we've decided to go with Zoom. And I think we're going to do it as a webinar, not as a meeting. And I know meetings are a little bit more, you have the ability to be more interactive, but given that we do still want people to have the opportunity to just present, we're going to go with the webinar based, and then put in some interactive things kind of on the side. And we basically, I mean, we had national plenary speakers lined up. We've put them on hold until next year. So it's going to be very regional based. And we don't know all of our speakers yet, but it's going to be a nice mix of COVID related Montana information as well as non-COVID related information, you know, to do with the housing sector and the health sector. And basically we chose 9 to 3 because I was on a class last week that was fantastic, but it went 9 to 6 and I hit a wall at 3. It was so long. So we're going to do 9 to 3. We're doing an hour at a time with breaks in between. And I think the breaks will be meant so that people can walk away or go into possibly breakout rooms to have peer-to-peer exchange. So we're still working on all of this, but that's what we're hoping for anyway.
That's interesting. Yeah. And are you sending out the, you know, sign up for this webinar, or how are you doing the outreach?
So we have a website, mthousingpartnership.org, and we are asking people to still register. While there's usually a charge for our in-person conference, that's several days, this one-day event, we're not charging for it. But we are asking people to still register, and I'm sending a link along with a password that they'll have to enter in order to actually participate, just in an attempt to try to keep it as safe as possible. If you put it out on social media, you're bound to get bombed. So yeah, that's kind of what we're doing for that.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
Just so you guys know a couple of things relating to pricing on Zoom. You can have a free account that's limited, I think, to about 40-minute conferences, and I want to say there's a fairly limited number of participants. But you can pay monthly and then have unlimited participants and time, or relatively unlimited. And if you want to go to the webinar format that Michelle was talking about, I believe that's an extra $15 for that month. And then I'm suspecting you can be turning all this on and off at your leisure.
Yeah, there's different price ranges for both meeting and webinar, and then you can go up based on the amount of people you have on both of those platforms as well. And then if you want to be able to go live on Facebook with multiple people, you definitely have to go to that webinar section of Zoom. I guess you can't do it with the meeting part of it. So that's how we started with it, is we've been doing interviews with lenders across the state and going live on Facebook that way, and then kind of testing out Zoom is how we decided to go with it.
So are you saying that Zoom can connect to Facebook and go live, or
If you pay for the webinar level of it, yes. So when you set up, whoops, I'm sorry guys. When you set up a webinar, you can invite panelists on, and once the panelists are there, there's a section that pops up and you can connect to either YouTube or Facebook. And it's actually live, people can tune in, but it also creates evergreen, video that's on your Facebook account, to which you can then download and put anywhere you want. So it's pretty cool. It's, not the cheapest. We have been using GoToMeeting up to now, which was only like $250 a year. And of course the Zoom is going to be a little bit more than that, but it's nice because you can go month to month.
Interesting. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Just on that note, I'm paying astronomical, I feel astronomical amounts for Zoom right now because I have 4 Zoom accounts. And, when it first came out, and Amy might be able to talk about this because she got me set up on it. And then Jill, my ballet mistress, can talk about it a little bit. But because I have 40 classes going, and the 40 minutes free doesn't work out for me. And I need the higher levels of things. Even coming from an education standpoint, which I think they came out in the beginning and said, hey, we're going to help all the educators with Zoom. I can't, because you can't have more than one person on each account at a time. I've had to have a Queen City Ballet guest artist, a Queen City Ballet company account, a Queen City Ballet conservatory account, and then another teacher account. It's getting out of control. And I mean, my monthly bill, I don't even know if it's a weekly. I don't even want to know if it's a weekly. It might even be weekly, but it's getting on. I mean, it's, up there at $100 for whatever I'm doing. So I'm not sure if I'm paying per account or not, but is anybody else having this issue, or find out if Zoom's helping any educators, or we need to recall them. I need to call them back, or I'm not doing something right. Or I'm just pushing because I'm desperate at the time and I need it right there. So I just go upgrade, get a new account, Is anybody else having this issue?
We aren't yet, but we're not that far into it. And luckily we have, just Katie and I kind of working on these videos. So we haven't run into that issue of needing multiple hosts, but there is the possibility in one account to have more hosts, and maybe that would help bring your cost down. I don't know for sure, but I know you can have multiple hosts. The other thing to think of is whether TechSoup has any discounts available for Zoom. I don't know I always try to get people to go to TechSoup and take a look at that and see if it's worth your time. But maybe they have some discounts too.
By the time you get it all figured out, we'll have, solved COVID or something like that. Okay, does anyone else have anything else on online fundraising? Does anyone have any other requests for anything informational?
There's definitely some interesting discussions going on in the chat about managing decision-making on events and conferences for late season, fall, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that was me, Robin Kelson from Arrow. We put on an annual expo. It's our main event of the year. Takes a year of planning. and now we're doing it this year. We're planning to do it in collaboration with another organization. And we're just we're sort of like, which way do we lean in? And we don't know. And I was just curious if anybody else has any suggestions on, do I just hang out on the tightrope and wait? We're kind of we're 2 months past where we would be, and everyone else is in the same boat. I'm just curious if how people are doing for fall events. Any thoughts would be appreciated.
Good question. We have our fall membership meeting. We're just not worrying about it until it gets really close. So I can't help you out.
Thanks. And if anybody has any thoughts in the future, feel free to let me know.
This is Sarah from MMA. We have a fall fundraiser in November, and our planning calendar started in February and kind of, you know, took a bit of a nosedive here. But what we've decided to do is to go ahead and plan for the event. So we're forming our volunteer committees and putting together our marketing pieces and really kind of moving forward with the pieces that make most sense, recognizing that portion for sure will be virtual. Whether we get to have a live event or not, we'll kind of keep that on the back burner, but we are going to do some sort of virtual event. So our event usually has a live auction, a silent auction, ticket sales, that kind of stuff. And we're right now moving to take our silent auction virtual and looking for a software platform to do the live auction if we need to do it that way. But we've reserved our spot. We're hoping that we'll have some kind of an event virtual live, but we know that we'll have an event virtually, and that lets our volunteers kind of be busy doing something and kind of keeping the ball rolling.
That's helpful. I really appreciate it because it just gave me the permission to say, oh, we could do both and, which I hadn't been thinking. So thank you very much.
And we have our largest ROI fundraising event in November as well. And it is up in the air right now because we're planning on moving forward with it. We're hoping that this doesn't have a resurgence in the fall, but we're also starting to put in ideas for social distancing and kind of coming up with a game plan of like, we can't do this event online. It's not an event like that. It's a book sale with thousands of books. And, but we're coming up with sort of a game plan of like, okay, when we do this, how many people would we allow in the door at a time? Would we put some barriers up in different areas that would create a kind of social distancing? Are we going to have to build the event itself to where the setup creates a flow of traffic that is safe for all of our attendees? So while we're hoping that we can go kind of normal by the time November rolls around, we're starting a game plan now for how we will do an event that does have around 3,000 people come through the door over 4 days. And what actions do we need to place? You know, hand sanitizer stations, volunteers who are there just to wipe things down and keep things clean. And so I would say maybe also start thinking of like a social distance action plan.
Thanks so much, everybody. I appreciate it.
Anyone else have any other requests on anything? My original goal was to basically go about an hour and a half on this, which is we're about 10 minutes away from. We can go as long as we want to a certain degree, although we have a council meeting. I'll give the reminder for council members, the council meeting will be a separate Zoom call that will take place at 11:30. But we still have time. Are there any other questions that anyone would like brainpower thrown at?
I just have one question.
Yeah.
In reference to events and social distancing, do you think that there will be a different opinion or things will be perceived differently if they are outside versus inside?
Any doctors in the house?
Supporting the arts outside. I mean, I'm in a performing arts venue, and some of that's a little bit postponed. But my question is, do you think people would feel, safer if it's a social distance outside, even with limited numbers, versus trying to even be distanced inside? Do you think that would be like for you all personally, like with,
I'm trying to find a, email me later. I'll try to find it real quick while we're on this call. there's an amazing study that has been taken on cultural institutions specifically and how people are going to feel about coming back into different places over the next 3 to 6 months. And they list out everything from museums to zoos to theaters to ballet to concerts, anything really culturally significant. And it's a real, I'm a data queen, so it's a real fascinating study. And I think it would really help answer that question for you. And I'm just trying to find it now. But the biggest thing, the takeaway was they interviewed, I think, like several thousand people and had them assess their emotional feelings about going to places after they're allowed to. And the biggest takeaway was places that had outdoor space, the places that were more open and less claustrophobic. People had a higher level of wanting to go to those places when they're allowed to than places like movie theaters or where you're sitting close together. Those had a much lower safety feeling. So any type of events and things like that that can be done outside over the next 3 to 6 months, it was highly recommended to take advantage of that, because that's where people's comfort level is going to be. Again, I saved it somewhere, and I'm happy to send that out maybe to Bill, and you could send it to everyone.
I gave you, I just typed in my email address, Bessie. Would you mind emailing me that if you find it, or calling me, emailing me with your phone number? We could talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. It's a fascinating study. I really appreciate it.
Okay,
They did it in March, and then they did it again in late April. So there's even now a correlation to how people were feeling in March to how people are feeling now, and they're going to keep doing it monthly.
Okay, thank you. That would really be helpful. I appreciate it.
Jesse, I suspect a lot of us would like to take a look at that. I wonder if you could share that with everyone when you find it.
Yeah, no,
I'm send it out to everyone once we get the address for it.
Yep, I'll find it and send it to Bill, and then.
Okay.
This is Sarah. I had one more question. I really appreciated the ideas for different webinars and things. Does anybody have a favorite software platform that they're using for online auctions that's not outrageously expensive?
We use at Lewis and Clark Humane Society. This is beta testing for us. We have not actually gotten the chance to use it because we had to postpone our event that we hold in March.
Okay.
However, thus far, it's not super user friendly, but once you get the hang of it, it can do a lot. And ours actually came in our package with Donor Perfect, which is our donor software.
Okay.
And it's called Ready Set Auction. And it has basically the option to do an entire online auction, and that includes silent and live. So people can place live bids on your higher ticket items that you wanted to do in a live, literally live. So you say the live auction's open from, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. and they could just continuously place bids, and it's auto, obviously, so you don't have to manually keep track the way you would in an actual live auction scenario, which is really nice. So the winning bid is the winning bid, and you're not having to scramble to figure out who it is. It's not, like I said, it's not super user friendly, and I don't know what it would cost to get it on its own separate from a donation software like ours is in the package. But it does a lot of stuff, which is really nice. And it creates bid sheets for you. It creates like email confirmations for people who do bid on things and purchase things. So it really takes the grunt work out of it for you.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Cassidy, are you real happy with Donor Perfect?
So we've only been using Donor Perfect. We switched from Donor Pro to Donor Perfect only about 6 months ago. So we are actually still learning, quite frankly. But thus far, we are very happy with it. it does a lot, which is really nice. It's one of those things that it does so much that we're still learning everything that it does. One of my favorite things about it is that it does have so many software attachments. Like I said, so we have Ready Set Auction attached to it. We also got the package that has Constant Contact. So something that LCHS had not done in the past was email fundraising or keeping in touch with donors through an email-based platform. And that's something that I took on when I took over the development position. And so Donor Perfect and Constant Contact talk to each other, which is super nice. So anytime somebody does an online donation and gives you their email, which they have to do to confirm their online donation, they are in your email software as well. So that's been a really nice tool that all of those softwares are designed to talk to each other and they come in one package. My development assistant does a lot of the grunt work with data entry and things like that. And she has been much happier with it than she was with our previous software. And they do have a really great customer support team that is available via phone or chat. And she has utilized that a lot and found them to be very helpful.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Cassidy. If for everyone that wanted that thing, I will still try to send it out to everyone, but it is in the chat, the URL for the study. Once again, any questions on anything?
Well, I feel like I'm going to be opening a Pandora's box, so we can decide to like just talk to me later about it. But following up on Cassidy's great information about auction platforms, we are in the process of evaluating newer donor platforms and online donation platforms and donor management. And it's a little overwhelming looking at everything that's out there and trying to decide what's really worth our time and effort. And I'd love feedback from other people who are using different platforms. I don't think now is really the time to get into it, but I'd love to connect with people, and you could just give me your email in the chat room and I'll follow up with you separately. Thanks.
Robin, who are you with?
Oh, I'm with Arrow. I'll just put my email address in there and then.
There we go.
There you go. I'm a little slow. There we go.
I'm gonna toss something out, and then we can go back to any discussion we'd like. I know the donor software is one that comes up in almost all town halls, and so we don't want to probably go into that too deep. But we will be kicking off the 26th annual Montana Shares raffle, and because we have so many give local type of things like Missoula Gives and Greater Helena Gives and whatever Bozeman's is, running the 30th and May 1st. I originally thought of kicking it off on May 1st. Let's shoot for May 2nd for the raffle. Christy can send you all kinds of raffle sheets if you haven't already received them that are labeled for your group. We are doing one thing different this year because we are identifying the fact that Montana Shares is losing probably most of our dine-out events, which brings in about $6,000 a year. So we're creating what we're kind of calling the secret menu new ticket price. In general, the tickets are designed to be sold one for $10, three for $25. We went up to 6 for $40. We're adding this new secret menu thing, which isn't going to be too terribly secret because we're pushing it everywhere, which will be 18 tickets for $100. And basically just saying you may have supported us in other ways that are not available. So this is going to be, we're going to try for a new record for the raffle this year. And part of that will be adding this $100 option. If you want the just one page of raffle tickets, that's 18 of them, Christy can help you out getting those customized for your group. But I don't want people to step on the Give Locals. So let's make a point of when you're sending out raffle information for the Montana Shares raffle, send it out on or after May 2nd. But it is official, it will be kicked off then. Christy, you want to unmute and tell me if I've missed anything that we should have covered by now.
I sent everybody their PDFs with their acronym or name on the tickets. Please print one at least to make sure that your name does show up. Sometimes for some reason on the PDF when I type it in there, when you print it, it doesn't show up. So hopefully it works now. But the tickets are sent to you. If you do want the one sheet with 18 tickets with your acronym or name on each ticket, let me know. I can do that and send you a PDF of it. Other than that, good job on prizes. It's great. We have 14 packages this year, 39 prizes in total, I believe. So the packages are worth anywhere from $200 to $300 per package. So it's really good deals. Great prizes like always.
And just other reminders, you cannot sell them on any sort of credit card payment because of Montana gambling rules. So they have to either be, well, they basically just have to be paying checks or cash.
Right. And if you get a check that is made to your group, just sign the back payable to Montana Shares and initial it and just send it in. That way you don't have to do it through your account and then send it over to us. That way it's just sent to us and you don't have to deal with it. Make it a little simpler on your end. And you can send them, you know, if you're getting a bunch, you can send them at a time or whichever you want to do. A new thing we're doing this year is prizes have to be in our office August 14th. Have to. We'll figure it out. Bill probably will travel some, or I travel in the summer around. So if you have a package you want us to pick up from one of the cities, just let us know. If we're out and about on our Sunday drive, we could meet up or something. So we must have every prize in our office on August 14th. I think that's about it. Thanks for everything, guys. It's going to be a great raffle again, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you. Anything else that anyone wants to ask? Robin, did you get your email posted there for anyone that can share what they're doing?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay, I see it now. I got it. Okay. If anyone wants to share information on favorite donor software, please email Robin with the email address on the chat box. Anything else before we get to the dog introduction for closing the meeting?
Bill, can I ask a quick question? Last year, you guys sent me photos of all of the items. Do you plan to do that again this year so I can create something for my website?
Christy, you're on, but you're muted.
There you go. Sorry. When I get prizes in, I will. Obviously, we've been working from home now, and I think we have 1, maybe 2 prizes in. So I probably won't do any pictures till maybe June. Just depends on how many we have in.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you had them from when we had to turn them in or not, so.
Yeah. Also, while everybody's here, remember we have a Montana Shares members web page. If you have any questions on most anything, hopefully it can be answered there. It's montanashares.org/members. So just remember, you can always go there to look up something. If you have a question though, just email us if it's not on there. But we try to have information on there like our calendar. I do have raffle information on there. Anything you might need on policies or the campaign, a lot of that stuff is on there. So it's a good resource for you if you're looking for something and we're not answering you. Just go to montanashares.org/members.
Another thing that comes to mind, normally at our regular in-person meetings, we have passed out evaluation forms because we always want feedback on what we can do to make meetings better. We have a 1 point for turning in evaluation forms. We have included an evaluation form for this Zoom meeting. So if you want to fill it out and send that in to Christy, shares@montanashares.org, feel free to do that. And it's worth 1 point. This meeting is worth 3 points as a meeting. There's no travel points involved, obviously. I'm going to make one more shout out to 2 people. area code 419-265-0242. Can you tell us who you are?
Bill, that's me, Dave Cooper.
Oh, okay, super, that'll get you on the roll. And I should have recognized that actually, my brain's not that engaged. 431, where'd you go? You disappeared on me. Maybe you went away. Okay, I think we've got a pretty good roll call for everyone. Anyone else have anything you want to discuss? No? I appreciate everyone being flexible and coming on the call today so that we can have a meeting, we can get our business done, and we can and share successes and whatnot. I'm going to bring my dog over here now. Oh, come here. Come here. Okay, she's been harassing me all morning and now she just looks at me like, what are you bothering me for? Okay, so much for that. Kimberly's got a couple of them sleeping on the bed there. Cassidy, is yours in the kennel or Handy? Oh, that would be one way. We just point the computers at him.
I'm not sure that he'll get up. But...
Hey, Tony. Lazy on us.
You come say hi?
Tony.
Do you say hi?
He's like, no.
He likes the sunshine, so he's probably not going to get out of his sunshine spot.
Yeah, my dog, my big one in the background is a rescue from the Humane Society. So
oh, that's where T's from.
Yeah.
Amy, what's yours? There we go.
Cats are just so much more amenable to showing off.
Yeah, it's really funny. He's a miniature dachshund, and I just woke him up, and he's like freaking out.
Oh, now we're energetic. There we go. I think there's so many things. People are people wearing pants. That one's not an issue. I get dressed every day, but the dogs are definitely always wanting to horn in on the Zooms. It seems like.
Mine is currently harassing the garbage man.
Oh my.
Here's my baby.
Oh yeah, Campbell's got a new baby, just like a week or so old, I think.
It is. This is Bella May.
Okay. Well,
Danielle, yours is adorable.
Dave, this is your dog we got to meet at the last meeting. Okay, well, there we go. We've got some dogs. I don't think you don't get extra points for bringing the dogs on. Let's go ahead and close the meeting out. I super appreciate all the work you guys are doing. I think it's important, even if you aren't on the front lines, your organization exists for a reason and your mission goes on, even if you aren't on the front line. So thank you everyone for the great work that you do. And thank you for being on the call today and making it a successful Zoom meeting. And have a wonderful day. And hopefully we've got some sunshine coming up that we can all enjoy for a little while. I'll see you later.